The trip started on December 7th when we flew from Florida up to New York City. So we spent quite a few days packing and getting ready for the trip, but we finally made it to the airport and we flew JetBlue up to New York City. So when we landed, it was around 2 p.m., so we ran a couple errands and then we stopped at this very cute Korean place and had some kimbap, and it was so delicious. Then we just spent the rest of the time exploring the Grand Central Station. We then went to the public library and we saw the old original Winnie the Pooh dolls. And then we just went to a Christmas market and explored and saw the beautiful Christmas tree and just enjoyed the Christmas vibes in New York City.
What time boarding starts?
We met up with our friend Nishi at the airport, JFK Airport, and we got our seats on Qatar Airways. They were pretty tight, and honestly, it was a very long flight. It was 15 hours. But we finally made it to Qatar, where it was a beautiful airport, and we were actually staying all night long because they extended our layover. So we actually were able to go to the airport people, and we ended up getting free hotels for the night. So we had some dinner at the airport. It was absolutely delicious. And then we took a shuttle and a random bus to our hotel in Doha. We were with some other people and some other families, so it wasn't very sketchy at all. It was actually just really beautiful to see a little bit of the city, even though it was the nighttime. And our hotel was beautiful. And since we all three booked separately, we actually were able to get 3 separate hotel rooms for free. So that was very funny. So we each explored each other's hotel rooms. And this is what it looked like. It was literally so beautiful. And as you can see, it was like plenty, like way too much space, like a whole room per person. But it was much needed because the flight was so long and we felt so disgusting. So we stayed at this hotel overnight, only about 4 or 5 hours, but it was still nice because we got to take a shower. And then, though, we were awoken at around 4 or 5 a.m. with some prayers. We took our flight from Qatar straight to Delhi. It was only about 4 hours, so it was a very nice flight. And when we landed, our friend Alka was there waiting for us. So we all grouped together and we got a ride from the airport to the hotel. And honestly, as soon as I got into the car, I was just kind of in shock. I couldn't believe I was finally in India. It's been my dream forever to go to India, so it was just very surreal seeing all the people and noticing immediately the crazy driving. So I was just very happy to be there. And we went to our hotel. Akila's brother helped us get this hotel. It was very beautiful. And we hung out for a little bit, had a couple drinks before we then drove to Akila's brother's fiance's parents' house, who live in Delhi. It was a long-ish drive because they didn't live too far, but honestly, it takes a long time to get anywhere in Delhi. But we finally made it, and they ordered us some amazing takeout. It was all so good. And we just kind of spent the evening hanging out with them, but we were all so tired, so we went home and crashed. The next morning, we woke up bright and early, and then we headed to this very cool outdoor mall. And we picked a nice restaurant and ate food and had brunch and a couple of drinks for a couple hours, just spending some time together before we walked around and explored the rest of the mall. This was a very nice upscale mall. I was very shocked at all the different stores it had, very similar to the States. In fact, it even had a Tim Hortons, which kind of blew my mind. Then we had to leave again because we had so many errands to run, the most important of which was actually going dress shopping. So we went through this traffic and we finally made it to the dress store. We went to a couple. This store was Pernia's pop-up shop, and it had so many beautiful dresses, and we actually ordered our wedding clothes here. So we got them all altered and made sure that they fit before heading back to our hotel. Since it was a Saturday and we were all in town, we decided to go out that night, and we went out with the bride and groom as well as a bunch of friends. And this actually turned into a completely wild night. We started at a bar, then we ended up at a nightclub with a table and bottle service, and we stayed there until 6 a.m. And then we left this club to go back to our hotel, but it turned out our hotel had a club in the basement as well. So then we partied at that club until 9 in the morning. At that point, I tapped out and went to bed, but my friends stayed up until around noon, which was wild. So the next morning we were complete zombies because we literally slept a couple hours, and we went to the mall actually at 3 p.m. the next day, but I couldn't hear a thing because the sound was so loud from the night before and we were all incredibly hungover. So we basically just ate at the mall and then went home and went back to bed. So this is the next morning. We had to go and run a ton more errands during the day, so we decided to stop at a cute Starbucks, and the Starbucks was so impressive. There were so many different options. I was honestly very impressed. And then we just had to go. We looked around because we needed some jewelry and some shoes for the wedding. So we looked for bangles, and we actually did end up buying some jewelry from this store. But everything was kind of pricey here, so we went to the San Giovanni market, and we were able to find some really, really cute jewelry and a kurta actually at this market. Then we ended the day by going back to the dress store and trying on a couple more outfits just to double check that they fit. And then we had to go to another tailor across town to get some blouses fitted last minute. So this is us just going to pick up the blouses, and that's all we did that day. The next morning, we were completely recovered and ready to go to Agra, which is where the Taj Mahal is. So we woke up early and got ready, and I was very excited to go because I have always dreamed of going to the Taj Mahal, and I honestly never thought I'd be able to go. So it was amazing. Also, it was nice to get out of the Delhi smog and pollution because that was starting to take a toll on our lungs and noses. We stopped at this really great rest stop. It was honestly so awesome, and they had so many different options like Subway, traditional Indian food. Like here we got some chai, and then Akila actually got a dosa, and it was the yummiest, one of the yummiest things I ate the whole trip. But I was being careful because it's always risky, and everybody says about the food poisoning in India. So I just had a little bit of a sip. This was a drink I tried, and I just didn't really enjoy it. But hey, that's part of traveling. And we just had some lunch and really honestly just all sampled. Somebody got pizza, somebody got the dosa. I ended up just getting like a really delicious baked good. So yeah, then we finally made it to Agra. It was about a 3-hour drive, and when we arrived, we met our tour guide, and then we got in an auto, and we drove in the auto down to the Taj Mahal. So you can only get so close before you have to park and then walk the rest of the way. So the rest of the way is just packed with vendors trying to sell their stuff, and other tourists who are going to see the Taj. So this is us as we were actually approaching seeing it, and it's really beautiful because you walk towards this building and then through the middle, the Taj Mahal comes into view. And it was honestly breathtaking. I've never seen anything like it, and it totally made sense to me why it was a wonder of the world. And it was just, I couldn't recommend it more. And the history of it was so, so cool because this guy built the Taj Mahal for, you know, the love of his life, his wife who had died. And he decorated it with all these precious stones cut into the shapes of her favorite flowers. So, and a lot of it was like an optical illusion. So it was just 100% breathtaking. And yeah, if you could ever get the chance to see it, it definitely is a wonder.
And he was all the way there? That's so... Yeah. Everybody
Just very small things too. That's why one of the wonders of the world.
Yeah.
Cutting stone. The most solid, hardest stone in the world. You can't get.
These are the semi-precious stones up close, so there's lapis lazuli and garnet, and the whole thing is made out of white marble. And across from the Taj Mahal, the emperor was going to build a black Taj Mahal, and this is where it was supposed to be. And so, yeah, there's me and my kurta that I bought at the market. And then after this, we actually went to go see a demonstration of how these stones were made. These gentlemen were actually carving the stones by hand and shaping them into the shapes for the flowers. And so this was very, very interesting to see. And they've passed down this method for centuries. So we felt very lucky to see this process. And also we were able to buy some things if we wanted. So I actually bought a coaster for my parents. After this, we went to the Red Fort where the emperors and royalty were housed. So this was just beautiful to see, and you could actually see the Taj Mahal from the Red Fort. And there were monkeys running around too, which is very cool. It was then time to head to Goa, and it was about time too, because a couple of us weren't feeling too good from Delhi, and the pollution was just making us feel like we had colds. So it was very nice to arrive in Goa. It was so beautiful and tropical, and we just headed straight for the resort where we were staying for a couple days, and this was a beautiful resort. That night we did a welcome dinner and then honestly just headed straight to bed because we were so exhausted. I couldn't believe it. It was finally the day of the wedding, and honestly it was so surreal because not only was it my dream to go to India, but to be able to attend an Indian wedding was just mind-blowing. So in the morning we got ready, and there were some traditional ceremonies that were held. Then we got ready for the Mehndi, which was where we did henna, and it's just a pre-wedding ceremony. So this is what I wore for this night. I absolutely love this outfit. It was a pre-draped sari, and this was the jewelry that we actually bought at the Sanjerini market. And this is all of us getting ready to head out. It was so beautiful. It was right on the beach, and there was unlimited drinks and dancing and fun. So this night quickly became very crazy. We all got henna done, and then turned into a dance party. And to be honest, a lot of us don't remember much of the night, but we know it was fun. This was the next morning. The wedding was from 9 to 11, but it was a little bit late, so it was actually started maybe at around 10 a.m. So yeah, this was the groom coming in. We got some coconut water to hydrate, and also it was incredibly hot because Goa is always around 90 degrees. And then this was the wedding ceremony. After the wedding, I walked down to the beach with Nishi, and we just put our feet in the water and looked around. It was just so gorgeous, especially seeing cows on the beach, and it was just nice. Also, at this point, I was starting not to feel too good. More on that to come later. But then we went back home for a little bit and relaxed before getting ready for the Sangeet. This was my outfit for the Sangeet. I was wearing lehenga. I loved everything about it. I thought it was so gorgeous. And I was actually meant to dance at the Sangeet because it actually means music. And so it's just sort of a celebration. But it was at this point that I actually started feeling kind of sick. I was sweating and feeling terrible, and I tried to pull it together. But basically, once I got to the Sangeet, I realized I had food poisoning. So I actually had to go home like almost immediately. So I missed the whole night, which is very sad. So this is some footage filmed by other people. And these are the girls preparing to do the dance. And yeah, I unfortunately missed it. I was in my hotel room just sick all night. And this was the after party that I also missed. Yeah, it was unfortunate. So after the wedding, we actually had to leave the resort and we went to an Airbnb to stay at. And our friend Shika came with us and she helped us to get the Airbnb. So the next morning, I pulled myself together because I was actually kind of nervous for the hour-long ride to the Airbnb. And another girl was also feeling sick. But we made it. And this was our Airbnb. It was very beautiful and it had gorgeous views. And this is actually what it looked like on the inside. And so on this day, I was so happy the Airbnb was nice because I just actually stayed home this day and rested and tried to feel better and just watched some Indian, Hindi music videos. Yeah, and then that night they went to dinner and I honestly just stayed in and went to bed. This was the next morning. I was almost recovered and I went with Akila and her extended family to a lunch together and we had some Asian Japanese fusion food and it was really, really good. One thing about Goa is it is hot, 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 so we were all very sweaty. Another thing is Goa was actually a Portuguese colony, so there were lots of Catholic churches, which was interesting. Then we went to this little market and bought some souvenirs, and then we went to the beach. And when we went to the beach, it was funny because this guy came up to us and asked us if we wanted to ride a boat. And we were like, yeah, sure, absolutely. Not knowing necessarily what we were getting ourselves into. So this is us before the boat ride. We were just looking around and looking at how beautiful it was. This is also a place where we saw more tourists. Although this wasn't a very popular beach, this was one of the side beaches, but it was just very nice to see the water and just feel the ocean breeze. But this was us in the boat. It was very funny because this guy was very hectic and honestly, we thought he might be on something. And we didn't realize it was going to be a speedboat. So honestly, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting to almost fall out of the boat. And it was so funny because Shika asked if we could all swim. And I was like, okay, what are we getting into? We made it back to shore in one piece, but we were all completely drenched with seawater and Shika got the worst of it. And it was really funny because we were going to bars that night. So we were all covered in salty and gross, but we made the most of it. And we still had a fun time. And we hopped around between a couple of bars and along the way picked up some snacks and just kind of explored. One thing though is it was early actually. It was around 10 or 11 p.m. and in Goa things don't really get too poppin' until about 12 or 1. So we kind of made fun on our own and I actually had to leave for the airport at midnight. So we danced and had a good time on our own even though it wasn't too full yet. And just enjoyed ourselves the last night for me in India. And then we watched the shows. There were some dancers. And at around midnight, we called a driver and I got a ride to the airport. My friends walked me to my car, and at this point, I started getting kind of sad because I just couldn't believe that 13 days had already passed and it was time to go home. This trip was amazing and it really just made me want to come back to India and visit more states. And I also just really want to come back to Goa because I felt like there was so much more to explore. But yeah, I headed to the airport and I actually bought some cashews because Goa is known for their cashews. And then I flew from Goa back to Tampa where my boyfriend was waiting to pick me up from the airport. And then I went home to Virginia for Christmas break. So yeah, thank you Akila, Dhruv, and Ankita for the trip. I really had an amazing time and I can't wait to come back to India.